All right, welcome to best practice number 7, course content, your course module content, making course content easy to navigate. Excuse me. Catherine Osborne is going to be joining us, I hope. If she doesn't make it, that's okay. We're going to plow through regardless. But she really was instrumental in helping me to design a well-rounded presentation from the faculty side of things, not just from the instructional design side of things. So hopefully, this will all feel pretty, it should feel pretty comfortable to you. It's based on our best practice. As you know, we spent a lot of time developing the best practices. I linked it here on the bottom, and this will go out to all of you. Um, but basically, this is a very formal document that guides you through what the official best practices are. They're not required by any stretch, but they're a nice thing to have for sure. And I encourage people to use the best practices because they're based on research and on evidence, and they're designed to help you to have the very best course possible. We're still focused on the best practice series on the course structure, but we're getting close to the end of the course structure, and we're going to be moving to activities and interaction next in the best practice world. Officially, this best practice reads that course content is easy to navigate. Course navigation obviously refers to how a learner moves through your online course, and ideally, you want them to be able to see intuitively where they're supposed to go, what they're supposed to do. Now, I have seen everything in my career as an instructional designer. I have seen everything from people putting every single thing that they've ever thought about any topic and just putting a laundry list straight down the middle of the course, right? And that was overwhelming to students. And then I've also seen people just put up PDFs and never any context, which is also not a great thing to do. I think one of the places I like to start is I'd really like to take just a minute or two and hear about what your current strategies are, as well as what you've done or what you've seen that absolutely just didn't work. Um, Oopsie, I've lost everyone now. Hold a moment, please. So, does anybody want to jump in and take us away with what your current strategy is, or what you do, what you haven't done, what you don't want to do, that sort of thing? I'll stop sharing for just a second. Don't all speak at once.
Yeah, if I might, I'll just mention one strategy. I have some material that I introduce in one course, and then I would like that material to be used in the next course.
Okay.
So the question then is, and it's a substantial piece of material uh,
Mm-hmm.
that I would like students to be right on top of. Now I can produce the first half of a story, and we're talking about the anatomy of the pain system, which goes from the tips of the fingers to the top of the brain. So I can talk in the first course about the first half of that path, talk about that traffic pattern you're just looking at. I could talk about the first half and get you halfway there. Well, it always seems to me that that's very foolish, because unless you know where you're going, why tell somebody how to get halfway there, which I can tell them in the first half of the course. And as you may know, in the medical school, the students work on learning about the body, literally from the foot up. And they gradually, by the end of this first year, will learn something about the brain, but very little. So I could tell them nothing about the brain, even though that's where it's all happening. You've got to get there to get your trip started. So I have a bit of a dilemma, because students will always mention, I will end up giving them half the story in the first course, but I actually give them the whole second half of the story and say, you don't need this now, but you will need it in a month. And it's
Huh.
available. But I say, you don't have to read this. But
Yeah, that's definitely a way to do.
that's where the destination is. And then,
Yep.
of course, in the next course, I give them exactly the same material and say, you learned, you were exposed to the first half. Oh, actually, you were responsible for the first half of this pathway. And now you're responsible for the second half, but you can't use either end. Now, you can do the first half without knowing anything about the second half.
Right.
So,
Right.
any comments about how to do that? So, I literally have another 20 slides or something like that. That's a lot of material, but it tells
Sure.
where they're going in the end. So any
All
comment?
right, yeah, that's a good case example of, and we can definitely look at that in the context of what I'm going to talk about today. And then remind me, Tom, to circle back around to that. Don't let me forget. And we'll circle back around to that and see if some of the stuff that I talk about today doesn't help you to, and discover some other ways to introduce that material and give them the pathway to look at the second half.
Mhm.
Any other comments or thoughts that you want to introduce before we jump into the content? All right, so Tom, you're going to be our case study for today. Let me share my screen again.
Well, of course, it happens throughout medical school. They get partial stories in
Yep.
early on in the course.
Right. And that's actually a perfect reason why course navigation has to be so spot on, because otherwise you run the risk of overwhelming them, right? Or you run the risk of confusing them because they're like, well, we're talking about the kidneys. Why do I have this information about the brain? It's too much for them to handle. You want it to be methodical. You want it to be, um, uh, you know, directed. Let me just make sure I've got the right screen sharing. I do. Perfect. And the most important thing to remember with all of this is that we know where they're going. And this is, I think, alludes a lot to what you were talking about. We know where they are going to go. We know what their path is, but they don't. And so it's so important to spend time setting them up for success by giving them the context and actual concrete information. So some of the things that I do, I will always do a course tour right from the get-go, and I would mention things like, hey, I'm going to be talking about things that, that may not always matter right this minute, but they will matter in a month or so. So just keep that in the back of your mind. That way you're softening the blow. So messaging them with a little bit of a tour. I like to give them some challenges. For example, I give a syllabus quiz, so that I'm sure that they've at least read the syllabus, and I give them a little, it's maybe a 3 or 4 question quiz, but it asks them to actively give me a page or a paragraph or a quote or something from within the syllabus. And then that way I know that they've at least read that main document that I've created. I've spent so much time creating for them, and it has all the information, but if they're not looking at it, it doesn't help. I like to always make sure that I am giving them as few clicks as possible in any course. So when people upload PDFs, for example, I always suggest to them, hey, maybe you want to just embed this into a page rather than doing a PDF. Yes, they can preview it in the page, but if you build it right into the page, you can also add some elements that make it a little prettier and make it more interesting visually. Um, I like to connect to other forms of media. That's just one of those points within course navigation. We'll talk about that more in a little bit, but breaking up a wall of text is really important to keep students on track and targeted. Brain breaks is a huge one. And again, we're going to talk about all these in a little bit more depth. The point is that online learners need some sort of structure. They need those guardrails, and we need them too as faculty members. At least I do. Maybe you guys are all superstars, but I am one of those people that if I don't have guardrails and some sort of pathway to follow, I will go right down every garden path and we'll never get covered what we have to get covered. A lot of times what we find with students is that they get overwhelmed, just especially in the very beginning of their experience. They get overwhelmed with the where do I go, what do I do, oh my god, oh my god. And if you miss that first 30-second window of grabbing them and saying start here, do this, then do that, then you're kind of going to always be at a deficit. So there again, I always recommend that people preview their courses from a student's point of view, and really put yourself in the place of a student so that you can see what you're talking about, and what um you can see where the holes are in your logic, because we all assume too much sometimes. There's a lot more, but I don't want to I want to move off this slide and move on to the next for a moment. One of the things I often hear from faculty is, do we have to do this? I mean, does it have, why can't I just put my material up the way I want to? Why do I have to follow a template? Why do I have to use, this thing that you guys have created for us? And well, you don't have to. It's recommended that you use our template mostly because when we built that template, when Bronca built that template, I should say, we actually did it with accreditation in mind. And so we put in things that will absolutely help you to reach accreditation standards so that people won't, the accreditors won't come in and say, well, where's this, where's that, do you have learning objectives? All of those things are built into the template so that, yes, as a matter of fact, I do have what you need. Yes, as a matter of fact, this exists. It's right here. And it just makes it a lot easier for those accreditation visits. Um, and also remember too that accreditation, it's a part of a federal mandate, which a lot of faculty have never. I didn't learn about accreditation until I was teaching for about 10 years. You guys are probably more on top of it than I ever was. But the idea is that when those accreditors come, you have to be able to point exactly to what they want every single time. By having a consistency about course layout throughout not just your courses, but your programs courses, your colleges courses, the universities courses. It's all part of our strategy to keep things consistent so that accreditation visits are easier for people. I Let me just take a quick peek and see if Catherine has joined us. She has not. I hope she's okay. Let's get into exactly where to start. When it comes down to it, you're going to be customizing your course navigation menu. Does everybody know what I'm talking about? That's that green bar in Canvas that goes down. I'm sorry, that's the white bar. There's the global green navigation bar, and then there's the white course navigation bar. Is everybody cool with that? Thumbs up or nod your head, one or the other. Has anybody know what anybody confused about that? I'm not seeing any. I'm going to assume yes, because I'm not seeing any no's. So when you're organizing that left bar, remember that you can reorganize the order of that bar. Most importantly, you can suppress things that you don't need. So get rid of clutter. Right? If you're not using, I'm trying to think collaboration, then don't have the collaboration button available to students. And if you need help to learn how to set those things, anybody in City can help you. It's really just a question of going to settings and moving things around a bit. You're definitely going to want to organize your course navigation menu with modules, assignments, discussions. Some people want those assignments and discussions to be available in the left-hand course menu. Other faculty members don't want that because they want it to be they want the students to go into the module and look at the overview and go there. Either way is fine, but just be consistent and make sure that if you're going to make those assignments and discussions tabs available, they should have assignments and discussions in them. If there's nothing in the tab, get rid of it. Um, I prefer myself not to have a tremendous. I like to put things into the module overview. We'll talk about that in just another minute. And then essentially, as I said, delete anything you don't need so that the whole point is reducing clutter. And I'll show you in a minute what I'm talking about in Canvas. When it comes to module pages, you want to organize that content into logical units. And in fact, I'm going to go to Canvas right now. So essentially, this is the course navigation menu that I was talking about. And to change anything on there, I would go to settings, I would go to navigation. And this course pretty much has everything enabled, but I'm not using Panopto videos. So why do I have it up in the menu? So I'm going to just click on the three dots and disable that. I am I can also just drag it down here. I am going to use simple syllabus. That means I don't need this syllabus tab either. So I can disable that one and put it down. It automatically moves it down below. And then I can move simple syllabus up above. It's as easy as that to move things around. And then just click save, right? When it comes to actual pages themselves, let's go into a module. And for me, and this is, everybody's going to do it a little bit differently, but for me, I don't like to have a bunch of content down underneath the header bar. This is the gray header bar that's in Canvas. I like everything to be on the overview, and then I delete everything here except for maybe the deliverables for that week. Like if I know that they're going to have a quiz and a discussion, I might leave those two there, but that's it. This this that cuts down on the way that the page looks in general. Um, I tend to organize things into modules, and I might have multiple weeks in a module, and that's okay too. So you could theoretically have, module one be weeks 1 through 5, module two is weeks 6 through 10, etc. And that helps you. That's another way of conceptualizing your material so that you're putting things into an order that you want them to think in chunks of information. Does that make sense to everybody so far? Does anybody have questions at this point? They all spoke but one. Oops. There we go. Okay. Um, so let me just give you a quick example here. Ba, 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 ba. Let's move to this one. This is a page essentially what we just looked at, right? It's got the whole laundry list, et cetera, et cetera. This, to me, that's overwhelming as a student. I much prefer something that looks like this, where I just click into course resources, read down through I want what I need to do, and then on the second link, I've got the introductions and my discussion, what I know that I need to do. Any questions about that? I'm keeping an eye on time. We do have time for conversation, so if you have something to say, really just feel free to jump in. And then pages and labels, there again, naming conventions and consistency is really the key. When it comes to a page, you're going to want to label those pages. And here again, let's go to the Canvas module. Can I bring this over here? Yeah. Can you guys, well, let me see. Can you guys see the Canvas page if I overlay it on my other
Yes.
monitor? Perfect. I wasn't sure if that was going to work or not. All right. So here's my week one overview. And you can see that this page uses header bars. And this is actually an older one. We have a newer template that's a little bit sleeker, a little bit smoother. But this one has the same purpose. But essentially, what this has, it's got the header bars which break up the material, and it's a good way to break things up for your students. Here again, accreditation says we want to see introduction and objectives for this particular class. It's really easy if we know that every course has learning introductions and objectives, we can just go to that course, pull it out of the module. There it is. Boom. Um, Learning materials can be anything you want to put in there. Resources include, lectures, PDFs, et cetera, et cetera, all the things you usually do, but they go in a section. They're not just randomly scattered there. And then finally, the last one down here is activities. And I always link the activities to make it easier for the students. Rather than having a long list on the front page, I put the list of activities, things that they have to do at the bottom of the unit overview. And that way it's really clear. They go through all the material and then they do the activities. At least we hope it's clear for them. Some days are better than others, right? Um, when it comes down to certainly headings are important, leading with the most important information. Another stat that I read was that people have about 30 seconds on to grab students within any page. So it's always a good idea to hook with something fun on your pages. Don't hesitate to add something fun. I like to put in little comics here and there, just something that'll break up let's face it, you guys are teaching really dense topics, right? Everything about what we learn here at Rush is huge. And your brain gets really tired and it gets hard to absorb that stuff. So little brain breaks like that scattered throughout your modules and your overview pages help to remind students that there's life outside of memorization and learning. Um, Limiting text density, being strategic with your multimedia, and recognizing that sometimes people are going to want to use that and sometimes they're not. It depends on my mood and how tired I am, but sometimes I will read, I was mentioning this earlier, sometimes I will read every single article in the news that I can possibly read. Other times I will watch every video that I can because my brain just can't take reading. So, you got to offer all the information in as many different ways as makes sense. You don't want to overwhelm students by giving them too much information. That's another reason why it's great to use, alternative resources or additional resources, or I forget what Angela used to call it. It's in the online teaching design course. She always had more food for thought, something like that. But the idea is you don't have to give them every single thing that's in your brain. You can break it up into this is what's really critical versus this is what you should be thinking about, but you don't need to know this for the test. Um, and of course, we are always going to advocate for providing opportunities for interactivity, right? We are city after all. So we are all about providing something for the students to do so that they can drag and drop some words, or do a crossword puzzle online, or do something so that they're manipulating the material some way somehow. And I see that Catherine just joined us. Hi, Catherine.
Hello, I am so sorry. I had a meeting go over with a student and then I could not get logged into Zoom. And
Oh,
it needed me to sign in and they wanted a
oh.
password. And I have my own Zoom account outside of Rush. And turns out that's the number they wanted. Anyway, I'm so sorry that I'm late.
No,
But
that's okay. You're here. That's all that matters. You're
yeah,
here and you're on time because we're gonna
okay.
bring it home with some I would just love to I don't think we need to go through any more of the slide information, but I just really want to hear what you how you work with these ideas in your class because I know you have a really good setup for your class.
All right, great. And again, I have really apologized. What do we have for time? Oh, just 5 minutes. I think what I thought I would do is just do a quick walkthrough of one of my courses and show you how that looks.
Yeah,
Let me
please.
let me open. Let's see. I'm going to do this one. So one of the things I know, I looked at Peg's slides. We talked about this yesterday, and one of the things I felt real strongly about was using consistency with each of the courses that you teach. Students love consistency. They really like it. It's easier for them to operate when they know what to expect. And so let's see. I'm going to go put this in the student view so you can see what they see. So I think one of the things that's really important is to set the course up so that there's not too much there and it's easy for the students to follow through and see where they're supposed to go next. And so the first thing I think is to set up this I refer to this as the left navigation panel, set it up so that it looks similar. It has not too much in there, just what they need to complete the course. And then I'll show you how I set it up in the modules. But one of the things I also do early on, right on the first day of class, is on the Start Here button. I have a little welcome message, and that message I won't play it for you now, but I'm happy to send it to you if you're interested in seeing it. But basically, what I do is welcome the students to class and then show them how to navigate through the course, because getting lost on the first day of class is really, feels bad. And so
Mhm.
I address it right away in the welcome message and talk about the left navigation panel and then what they'll find at each one of these sites. Most specifically, that this is where they go to find their modules and that everything they need to complete a course is included in the modules. And then my modules are all set up identically. So each module has a header and I have a different module for every week. So, and the very first page underneath the header gives the student literally every link and everything that they need to complete the course. And they all look identical. So you have the title of the module. Each module has a description, learning objectives, key concepts, some required readings. And if there's going to be a live class session, I have that there. And then the assignment instructions. This particular module doesn't have a lot of interaction, but most of the modules, let's see, I'll go into the next one, module 2. Well, okay, so if there are other things they need, like a Dropbox or a discussion board, There's a link to the discussion board that that assignment's going to go. There's a link to that discussion board on that module page, but they can also access it by just coming here and finding it there. And then I always post the recordings and the slides for any live class that I do. And then similarly, this is the module 2. You open module 2 and it's very consistent. It looks the same. I have a printable version for each module that students, because some people still like to operate out of a binder with printable modules. And then they look the same with the key concepts. There's a little bit more interaction here. There's some little videos, and they get down here a bit more, anywhere there's a hot link, they know that's required reading. And then there's the list of required readings. Most of them are available online with something out of the textbook. And then these are some websites that I recommend, and then the assignment. And that first assignment was just an introduction, but going forward, there's also a rubric that follows each assignment. So the students begin to know that this is exactly what this course is going to look like. Every time I go in here, the course is going to look this way. So anyway, that I think probably, the other thing is, one thing that we know about online learners is the more times they have to click a link, the less likely it is that they're going to get to where you want them to go, because they'll give up. Oftentimes they won't even click a second time. So for example, under getting started, I always post, there's the start here that has a few things in, but I also always post a course schedule. And when the students click on that button that says course schedule, it opens to this course schedule. They will see everything. And this is the one document. I do need to update it every term. I need to put new dates in, but I can't tell you what it saves me in terms of students saying, well, I didn't know I had to do that then, or I didn't see it then. Because they can go right there. They can print a version if they want to take it out and have it some copy. Yep.
Can I just ask a quick question? I mean, I
Yes.
think that I try to send people to the syllabus page where all the assignments are listed with dates. So I don't know if that's something that you would recommend
Yes.
or not.
So I use the same, I'm using simple syllabus too. And that always, it does definitely direct them to that. But these syllabi are huge. And I think a lot of students, they got to get all the way to the end before they see the assignments here. And a lot of students I have found, I don't know that they all make it to the syllabus. And so, and also if you, because I post the module, I mean, you're right, it's definitely down there. The other thing I will point out to you though, if you don't, when you're putting your syllabus together and you're putting the course together during the break between terms in Canvas, you have to have all these drop boxes published in order for them to show up on simple syllabus. And I've run into trouble with that. Surprise. And the students will go, and they looked at it the first day of class, wrote all these things in their calendar, but then they never went back to it. And so I have learned that. So now I make sure that all the drop boxes are published, even if I don't have access to them for the students. They've been published and they're available, right, so that they do show up down here. But that's why I still post that course schedule up here, because they know they can click on modules anytime they forget. I mean, I use it myself. What are we doing this week? So, and it's always right there. They don't have to click again to see it. So that's why I do it there, because you're right, it is in the simple syllabus. I just worry that not everybody goes to the syllabus.
Yeah, I agree. And I mean, that's my struggle, is trying to figure out how much I should repeat information.
I know.
Because sometimes I feel like I go overboard then, I'm like, when I get a bunch of questions about something, I start posting it like everywhere. So that's not good either.
Well, and you make a really important point, Barbara. The more places you post it, the more you have to make sure you change it every term, because
exactly,
just when you think you've got it so they can navigate it and they can see everything, it says one thing in one place and one thing in another.
Right.
Emails me and I go,
synchronicity is key.
Yes,
Consistency and synchronicity, right? And so
right.
and to that end, I never tell people to put dates on their assignment. You don't tell people what date something is due. Tell them it's due on that Friday at 11:59 p.m. Every assignment is due on the same day and time, and then you never have to put a date into the actual assignment, so you don't have to go back in next term and change the date in the assignment. You can certainly you would put due dates in, but I'm talking about in the directions themselves, right? Because
Right.
I've seen it where people are
Yep.
putting they build their assignment, they put their directions in or not. Oftentimes they don't even put directions in, and then there's just a due date and nothing else. But you're much better off if you just are consistent about your dates and have everything all written work is due on Saturday at 11:59 p.m. Boom, done. It makes
Except
things
for
a
when
lot
you have a
easier.
holiday that falls on those Saturdays, and so you've
Right.
moved the due date slightly. I mean, there are some caveats to that, but you're right. It
Yeah.
really works. Then this is why I like having this course schedule here, because then you don't have to put it in the module. And it
Yeah.
just, there's always, and this is the one document I know I have to go through and change all the live, and everything's here, the live classes, the module assignments, the topic we're going to be covering. It's all right there so they can see it. So a little more detail than in the syllabus, but you know, it is one more place you got to change it. And remember,
So, Catherine, thank you. That was so helpful and always great to hear from a
yes,
fellow faculty member. It is 1:34, so if people need to disappear, I understand completely. These are only designed to be a half hour long. I do want to hold
I
on a
can
moment. I'm gonna
I can stick around for I'm here, so if I'm happy to stay.
Yep, me too. If anybody wants to continue on. Otherwise, I just want to say thank you to everybody
Yep.
that did pop up and join us here today. I will send out a copy of the recording. I will send out um, a copy of the PowerPoint. And as always, we at City and Catherine, I'm sure, are always open to comments, questions, concerns, etc. So thank you very much for joining us on this journey through Best Practice 7.
Yes.
Thank you. Bye.
All right.
Right, let me know if you have any other questions.
Actually, Peg, this is Clayton.
Yeah, hi, Clayton.
There's a question that's been nagging on me for a couple of years now.
Okay.
And I'd love to get some input on the difference between posting all of the content for the semester all at once at the beginning
Oh,
of the semester,
That's it.
or is
Yeah,
it
yeah.
ever useful to let things, to release them, week by week, a week ahead of time, sort of a way.
Here's what I do, and then I'll let other people share what they do.
yeah.
I really like to on the first week, I only have week one open, and I let people come in and I introduce the course and I give them some parameters and give the
Right.
introduction, blah, blah, blah. After they've been in the course for a week, I will open up 2 to 3 weeks at a time. I
Okay.
never give them everything because then I've got the Yahoo that's going to run through and
That's
do the whole
exactly
course
what
in 10
happens.
minutes.
That's the
Yeah, and
worst.
and they don't learn anything because they're not doing it with their peers. They're not doing it with you. They're just going ahead and cowboying it.
Yep.
So I open up 2 to 3 weeks at a time. You can schedule those releases so that you don't have
Mhm.
to actually remember to go in and open them up. That said, I'm a very hands-on instructor on my online courses. And I always go in and at the same time every Monday at noon, I choose Monday at noon because I like to make sure I take Monday morning to do a little message and
Sure.
address what happened the week before. And I make sure that current week coming up matches what I actually want to do that week. And then I release it Monday at noon every week. Or every couple of weeks. So, and as soon as I release one, I release another one at the other end. So they always have 3 to 4 weeks of content,
I,
and
Yeah.
that that
And
that gives
I
them satisfaction as well as makes it easier for me.
And I do the same thing. I tend to open the first three modules on the first day of class. And I always tell them that, there's a reason for that. And the reason is because it's important to go through this course as a cohort rather than racing to the finish.
good way to put it.
And
Yeah,
and I and I spell that language out. It says it the same way in every one of my courses because sometimes students get really mad at me, and because
yeah.
they're going on a cruise and they want to do these three modules ahead of time. I'm like,
And
You
you're
know,
withholding vital information.
Yeah.
correct.
Well,
So I
and I
do, and then
have oh,
I do it in 3 minute, three modules at a time
yeah.
throughout the term. And I love the way that Canvas lets you set it up that way. It's really so nice. Every single module, you can just right there on the thing, dial it down, set exact the date and time that it's going to open. And they know it's going to be the same. It's always on a Wednesday, the week before the next one starts. And then they'll get three at a time. So,
Yeah, at least part of what I like about it, doing it that way, is that even if it's an asynchronous, all
yeah,
online class, you may not
right.
all be on the Canvas site at the same time,
Yep.
but you're sort of working within the same module unit of
Exactly.
information.
And my
Yeah.
courses are all totally asynchronous and
Yeah.
totally people are from all over the country in them. So and I love it because when I can set them up that way, if I get tied up and busy with something and I didn't get in to get it open in the morning, I know Canvas is taking care of it for
Okay.
me. It's one of the nice features about Canvas. So but yeah,
Absolutely.
I totally agree with you, Clayton.
Thank you.
Some people will finish the course in 2 weeks and be done with it. In
Yeah.
fact, that's why I was late today. I was meeting with one of my students who right away let me know she was not happy that she could only see three modules at a time. And, now she's got all these questions
And
because she's losing
once
all these
somebody
points on
has
assignments. I'm like,
raced ahead and done all those, you
that's
can
right.
change anything,
Yep.
in a module that's had student responses in it. Uh,
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly.
the whole semester is locked in once the first person does that.
Yep.
Yep. Yep.
Exactly.
Great. It's great to
So,
be able to argue to my students that it's whatever it is we're doing in the class, it's this way because it's the best practice.
I love
yeah.
it. There,
That's huge. Actually, Clayton, I'm glad we're recording that. Can you restate that as if to an audience of students because I really want to grab that for a testimonial if you don't mind.
It's absolutely my testimonial. My experience is that it's really helpful to be able to make the argument that the reason we're doing things a certain way in an online course is because it's a best practice.
That's right. And not only is it a best practice, it's an evidence-based best practice.
Yeah,
And, the folks in the health sciences know all about evidence-based practice and that's the only way that we should be
right.
taking care of people. I tell them that about students too. Everything I do in this course, I have good evidence to support what I'm doing. Not just because I thought it was a really great idea, but because we know that this works with students and with online learners and with, all sorts of things we use evidence. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
So my thanks to